When you were working at Hooters, now is that how you initially got connected to Playboy?
No, it was actually through Hawaiian Tropic. I took a gig with Hawaiian Tropic. They would hire women to kind of like just wear their t-shirts and show up to events and things like that. So it was like super easy job and like the other women were really nice. But they also required that you do the bikini contest too. So I went to one and Hef's doctor had gone to that bikini contest and he told the organizer that he wanted to invite all the women in the contest to the next Playboy Mansion party. So that was really exciting for me because back then those were the really cool parties to go to. And some of the women from Hooters were going, but only like one or two. It was like only like the really cool girls got invited. So that was exciting. And my roommate ended up being one of the people invited too. So we got to go together.
So those parties used to be like a big thing where people in like Hollywood were talking about them. Like, every girl wanted to pretty much go, and it was like the hot shit
Mhm.
going on.
Yeah, it was. It's hard to convey today because it sounds kind of cheesy, but it really was the most exciting party to go to. And especially if you were like a new girl in town, you really wanted to go because you thought it was a place where you could like meet celebrities and see cool things and like possibly get discovered. So it was super exciting. But this was like back in the day before everybody had cell phones and cameras and people weren't allowed to bring cameras inside. So it was really, really private. So celebrities felt comfortable going and partying and they didn't feel like they were going to get outed by anybody.
Do you kind of like miss that time, like where the parties would like, I mean, obviously, I don't think you're in like all of these parties nowadays, but like, do you kind of, do you think it was like a special moment in time where we didn't have social media or those like cell phones and really anyone can get away with whatever they wanted?
I mean, it's a real give and take because you think about it, definitely made the parties more special and there was more of a glamour to it. And that's definitely something you can't recapture today because now everybody has a phone and everybody's going to expose everybody on social media. But the downside of those days was not everybody had a voice. So a lot of crazy, messed up shit could go on and people wouldn't be believed or people wouldn't have receipts like they do today. So it's definitely a give and take. But if you're looking for, like, if you have this fantasy of going to like a really exclusive Hollywood party, back then would have been the time to do it because now it's just nothing's private anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And when you went to the mansion for the first time, did you have to like sign an NDA or anything?
No, there was nothing like that.
Yeah. So then what was that first experience like going to the party with the Hooters girls? Did you interact with Hef that first moment?
I did go up and introduce myself and say thanks for inviting me, but it was just like a very quick interaction. It wasn't really anything. I just was wandering around with my roommate, and we had met up with another girl who used to work at Hooters as well, who'd been to the parties before. So she kind of like gave us a tour of the whole place and showed us around and took us to the zoo. And we just thought it was really cool. And we saw like some, people from TV and some playmates that we recognized. So I was just kind of like starstruck by it all and just by the whole party. And I didn't even stay very late. I mean, that's kind of me anyway. I'm kind of a homebody, but we just stayed for a couple hours and we're just kind of completely in awe and then went home and had something to talk about for the next month.
Yeah. So you were we'll get into your time at the mansion, but just like a quick reference, like at these parties or when you were living there, like were there any like big celebrities you remember seeing that you were just shocked to be in the same room as them?
Yeah, I mean, you would see people like, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and people like that. But even like lesser known celebrities, like I grew up watching 90210. So I saw the actor who played Nat at the Peach Pit. And I'm talking about the original 90210, not even like the most recent one.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was so cool to see him there. It's crazy, moving to LA before you've ever seen a celebrity. It's just so exciting to see anybody you recognize from TV.
Yeah, and do you recall, I guess, like anyone who you had met and they were super great and nice, or anyone who was kind of a dick when you met them and changed your perspective of them?
I remember I was working a golf event for Hooters and I wanted a picture with Clyde Drexler because he was like the star basketball player on the Portland Trailblazers when I was in high school. And I thought it would be so cool to show everybody from home. And he was like not down to take a picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll never understand that. Like moving here, it's interesting to see how, like, I mean, now everyone's a creator or influencer, everyone's famous now in LA, but it's interesting to see how some people will, like, because every time someone comes up to me, it's like, I can't imagine being nothing but like super nice and grateful. So,
Yeah, like why not?
Right? It's like, and you'll make these people's day.
Yeah.
So before you went into the mansion and moved in, I read that you were financially like struggling. I guess like the
Mhm.
Hooters and the
Yeah.
modeling wasn't, I mean, it's expensive out here, so it's hard to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah, I was trying to do too much all at once. I was trying to get good grades at school so I could keep my scholarship, but
Hmm.
also work hard so I could pay the rent and also pay for all my headshots and everything and go on auditions. And it was just like everything was crashing because I was like, I couldn't pick a lane.
And what were you studying in school?
I was a double major. I was doing psychology and theater.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Did you what did you want to do with psychology?
I just thought it was interesting. I thought, well, I thought I wanted to get into acting. I thought it would help me with that too, but I
Hmm.
just thought it was interesting and probably just me biting off more than I can chew.
Yeah, I studied psychology, and even though I don't necessarily, I guess, use my degree now, I think that it's helped me a lot in like the creator space.
Oh, I feel like that too. I feel like it's just everyday knowledge that's so helpful. It just comes in places you never think it would.
Especially like behavioral, because I feel like that can really explain like why people act a certain way. And it's like I go back to that like class I took and I'm like, oh, like, they had a terrible upbringing, so now they're a terrible person. So
Absolutely.
how did the opportunity to move into the mansion present itself?
Well, after I got invited to that first party, they take a Polaroid of you when you go and they grade it A, B, C, or D. Obviously, like A
Oh,
is the people they want to invite back to every party. B is like you get invited to the big parties. C is like if they're desperate. So I got invited back to some of the smaller parties
do you
that
know
they
what
would.
your letter was? Were you an A?
Yeah, it was an A. And I didn't realize that until I found it years later. And I would have never guessed that I was given an A just because, like, even throughout the relationship, like, Hef always made me feel like I was kind of ugly and like not that cute. So I would have guessed that I got a C and was like super lucky to get on the pool party list for some reason. But I was going through pictures like years after I'd moved in because we were looking for more people to invite to the pool parties just because Bridget and I thought it'd be fun to have more people up there. And I found my old picture and I got an A and I was shocked because it just surprised me because I wasn't really treated that way. But,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, it happens. So, and I guess it's like, I don't know, that's kind of like a degrading way. It's kind of like, it reminds me of like, I don't know, like farm animals or like grading them, like who's, A grade.
yeah.
Um, so how did like so actually I want to ask, when you were
Oh, yeah, I
invited to
didn't
these
finish the
parties
question.
with the Polaroids, how would they actually invite you?
To the party?
Yeah, like would they get your number like on the back of the Polaroid or?
Yeah, well, when I was invited initially, it was through the organizer of the Hawaiian Tropic event because Hef's doctor wanted everybody invited. So he had our numbers because we were
Mm.
working for him. So we gave them our address, and then we would get like an actual physical invitation. And
Oh,
from there, they had our information to keep us on the party list, and then that was attached to our Polaroid that we took before we entered the party for the first time.
interesting. So then how many times did you go back to the mansion until you really started to interact with Hugh Hefner?
I would say I was going to pool parties for about a year and I would see him and interact with him a little bit. And from what I was seeing at the time, I really liked him. I really admired everything he'd accomplished. I thought he seemed really charming. And I'd been invited to go out with him and the group a couple times, but I hadn't taken him up on it until one day, my roommate was moving back home. I didn't have anywhere to go. I was like, you know what, maybe I should try living at the mansion because I'd gone up to the pool party and one of the bartenders was saying how one of Hef's girlfriends had just got kicked out. And I was like, well, there's a spot open. Maybe I should give this a try. And that wasn't anything that I would have ever been like bold enough to take him up on. Like, even though I love the Playboy brand and I liked Hef and I really wanted to be in the magazine, like I wouldn't have had the courage to like go out with them unless I was like desperate. So that was me.
And do you know why that one girlfriend got kicked out?
I never really got the full story. I think she was like sneaking out and seeing another guy.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it does seem like, so when you were moving into the mansion, like it, was kind of a lifesaver because at that point you didn't really know where you're going to go. But were you fearful of like losing your independence?
At first, no, because I thought it was going to be such a temporary thing. I thought I would be there for maybe like 6 months to a year, maybe like 2 years max, if things really went on, just because that was kind of what I had seen, being a guest at the parties for the past year. I'd seen Hef and his 7 girlfriends, and you kind of see from a distance there was a revolving door and people didn't really stay very long. So I didn't think I was going to be there very long. I didn't think if I had to follow a 9 o'clock curfew for a year that would really affect my life that much. I was more interested in like getting back on my feet and like taking advantage of good opportunities rather than like going out and partying.